Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video that is going to help you in your move abroad, or rather, in this case, to the Netherlands. My name is Natasha, and this is a space where we share experiences, we learn, and we grow. Please do subscribe to the channel to help the channel grow, and don't forget to hit your notification bell so that you never miss out on any of my videos going further. Also, please do give this video a thumbs up if you feel it was very helpful. And if you'd like to leave me a comment in the comment section, I would really appreciate that. So today's video is going to be focusing on residence permits in the Netherlands. And I will be explaining to you guys today how 5 years in the Netherlands can either lead to a permanent residency or a citizenship. So yes, after 5 years in the Netherlands on a residence permit, as a highly skilled migrant, remember we are focusing on the highly skilled migrant visa, as that's how we moved here as a family. You reach an important milestone, and this milestone is basically unlocking long-term residency options and possible citizenship. So here's what can typically happen and the options that you do have. The first option that you have after 5 years of living in the Netherlands on a legal residence permit is that you could either apply for a Dutch permanent residence permit or an EU long term residence permit. I will be unpacking both of these and explaining what the benefits are of both of them and what the disadvantages are. If you decide to go for a Dutch permanent residency after 5 years of living in the Netherlands, these are the requirements. Once again, as mentioned in the previous videos, that immigration is handled by the IND in the Netherlands. So the first requirement is that you obviously need to have lived in the Netherlands for 5 years. And in that 5 years, your residence permit must have been valid. You also need to have a sufficient income. So, this means you need to have a job or a stable income that is helping you to survive in the Netherlands. Then, you need to pass the Civic integration exam, which is also known as the Inburgering exam. And then lastly, you need to make sure that you don't have any serious criminal records under your name or a criminal record. I'm not 100% sure about all the information that the civic exam entails, but I do know from some videos that I've watched and some stuff that I have read that it's usually questions about the country and how well do you know the country, how informed are you about where you live, and I think also language. So I think they test your understanding of the Dutch language and your general knowledge of the Dutch culture. And then if you decide to go this route, which is getting the permanent Dutch residency, what you get, which is now the benefits or advantages of this, is that you do not need a sponsor or an employer anymore. So, for example, if you remember in the previous videos that I shared, I did mention that my partner moved here under a sponsor, right? Because that's the only way you are able to move to the Netherlands if you move here on a highly skilled migrant visa. So at the moment, he is still under his sponsor. And after 5 years, he will no longer need that sponsor for him to be able to reside here and ultimately for us to be able to reside here. So the benefits of getting a permanent Dutch residence is that you do not need a sponsor or an employer anymore. You can literally just work for whatever company that you are working for and be a permanent Dutch resident. And then you also have the freedom to change between jobs. So you are not locked, or what's the word that I can use? You are not obligated or confined to just be at the same company that was your sponsor. You are allowed to change jobs. And the last benefit is that there is much more security. So you are not tied to your visa or your job if you go this route. Going to the EU long term residence status. So, the other option that you do have besides getting a Dutch citizenship is getting a EU long term residence status. So, this is very similar to the Dutch permanent residence, but it has extra flexibility. So, the benefits of getting an EU long term residence status is that it's easier for you to move and work in other EU countries. So if you want to work in Germany, for example, or you want to work in any of the other EU countries, you are able to do so. Whereas with a permanent Dutch residency, you have to work in the Netherlands. Another benefit of the EU long term residence status is that you have long term stability across Europe. So there are slightly stricter requirements in some cases, but often applied for alongside permanent residence. So you are able to move around, work in different countries, and have stability in whatever country that you do choose. And then the third option, besides the permanent Dutch residency and besides the EU long term residence status, the third option that you have is the Dutch citizenship, and which is also known as naturalization. So this means that you become a Dutch citizen. And these are the requirements for you to become a Dutch citizen. The first requirement is that you also need to have 5 years of legal residence in the Netherlands. Number two is very similar to the Dutch permanent residence requirement, which is that you need to have taken and passed the integration exam. And another requirement for this one, which is actually a bit of a disadvantage if you do not want to lose your citizenship, is that usually you need to renounce your citizenship. This depends on the country, but apparently with South Africans, you have to renounce your South African citizenship. So basically, you will have to give up your South African citizenship in order for you to get a Dutch citizenship. And then the last requirement is exactly the same as the permanent Dutch residency, and it's that you must not have any serious criminal records under your name. There is an exception, however, some people can keep dual nationality, but this depends on your situation, and I think it also depends on the country that you come from. So basically, those are the three options that you have after you have lived in the Netherlands for 5 years legally. You can either choose the permanent Dutch residency, you can choose the EU long term resident status, or you can apply for a Dutch citizenship. So, some important information to note as a South African, and it's that the Netherlands generally does not allow dual citizenship in naturalization. So, for South Africans, you would have to give up your South African citizenship or apply retention of citizenship through South Africa first. And this is a very big decision to make. It's something that you need to make sure that you are ready for and something that you need to be really sure about. My partner and I have also discussed options in terms of what we would like to do after 5 years. And to be honest, we are not yet sure. I personally, for now, am not ready to give up my South African citizenship for a Dutch citizenship, but that's just how I feel now. Maybe my feelings might change after 2 years. We don't know. We'll see. Or maybe I might still feel the same way. Also, just to note that most South Africans usually choose to rather get the Dutch permanent residency than actually going for a Dutch citizenship. And then lastly, just some extra information to note is that if you do not qualify yet for either a permanent Dutch residency, a EU long term status, or to get the Dutch citizenship, then you can renew your existing permit. Sometimes there may be situations where you do not qualify, even though maybe you have been here for 5 years, but maybe there are some things that do not allow you to qualify for either a permanent Dutch residency or getting a Dutch citizenship or whatever the case may be. So if you do not qualify yet, the option that you do have is to extend your current permit. And if that's the case, you still need an employer sponsor. So you will still need to be under a sponsor for you to be able to live in the Netherlands. Another thing that is important to note is that if you do nothing and if your permit expires and you don't renew it, or you don't switch to either a permanent residence or applying for a Dutch citizenship or even a EU long-term status, then you may lose your legal right to stay in the Netherlands. So it's very important that after 5 years, or even before the 5 years is up, you make a decision about what you want to do as an immigrant and what path that you are going to be taking. And lastly, just to wrap up and conclude on this video, what most expats do is that after 5 years, they rather go for the permanent residency and later maybe decide whether to apply for the citizenship. To mention a simple decision guide, if you want stability but to keep your nationality or your original nationality, the best route to go is through the permanent residence. And if you would like to get a Dutch passport, then you would have to apply for Dutch citizenship. And if it's still early and you're unsure, you haven't made a decision, you're not sure what to do, then it's best to maybe apply to extend your current visa. So, yeah, guys, that is the information that I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope it really does help someone. If you feel like this video was very helpful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share the video with other people that you think would need to know this information. Leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what other information maybe I may have not mentioned, or just if you feel like this video is really helpful, just let me know that. Thank you for sharing this information. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.